Hello everyone, welcome to Zion Traders. Today we'll be analyzing Euro USD, right? As we can see right here on my chart. So before we get started with the technicals, let's really take a look at the fundamental perspectives, right? So let's take a look at this is investing.com, as you can see right here. So this is USD CPI last month, which is Consumer Price Index. So as you can see, this core CPI month for the month of March, right? It came lower than expected. This was the forecast, but then it came lower than expected, right? What that means is negative bearish for the dollar, right? So if you look at the long term, which is the year of year, you can also see that it also came lower than expected, right? So the long term bias, as you can see, it's actually still bearish, right, for the US dollar. And if you look at the CPI, so with this one is actually the short term because it has to do with the monthly basis of March. You can see that it was also lower than expected. So this is really crazy, guys. So it's really not good for the US dollar because there is actually no high expectation of Fed hiking interest rate, and you understand when there is no expectation of interest rate hikes or increments, it's actually going to make the currency to slow down. Let's take a look at that for Euro USD and then we'll compare both of them together. So as you can see on the 16th of April, that of Euro USD was released. And if you look at the CPI for year of year of March for Euro USD, it came just is neutral, is neither up, it didn't go up and it did come down, right? For the consumer price index, you can see 2.2% right here. This was the expected, right? And then this is what came up. So it's actually a good thing, but not very good actually. So, but then if you look at the interest rate decisions right here, meeting that had on 17th of April. So also it came as expected, right? So this was the forecast and this was the actual 2.4% and 2.40%. That's it, guys. So this literally means the tone of ECB, right? That actually, if it's hawkish, right, it therefore means that most likely there's actually an expectation for interest rate increment, right, or hike, right? But then it just depends on the tone, right? Then, so let's quickly take a look at the technicals. So looking at the fundamentals, you can see euro actually is actually better off than that of USD, right? Because euro USD is purely negative. It came out negative. There is no actually more of like no expectation of interest rate increments, right? So that's pretty much it. If you look at the fundamental technicals right here, you can see that Euro USD has been buying for a very long time and it sold into a very good zone and then started buying. And then currently we can see that there's a break of structure to the upside. So what are we looking at? This is the higher time frame, right? So we know that we are overall bullish on the higher time frame. So what are we going to do since we are bullish and price has been buying? So originally, right, we should be expecting some retracement after price has taken out this kind of levels, right? But then that's actually what we should be expecting. But then since it's still bullish, we should be, and also the fundamentals is also telling us bullish. We should actually more of focus on the bullish side, right? But then we should be very cautious because you can see this candle pattern here on the weekly time frame that forms. So this we should be very careful how we take buys because it's more like a sell pattern right here on the weekly time frame. So it could start selling from here and sells into, let's say, a discount of this zone right here, but then it could also continue buying from this point. So let's quickly go to the daily time frame and let's see. So on the daily time frame, there's actually no more data here since Euro USD has been buying for a very long time. We have lows here and then we have a good zone here. And so the only good zone where may or possibly be waiting for price to come to on the daily time frame is this zone here and also this very zone here. These are the two zones I'll be waiting for price to come to personally on the daily time frame. Right. So but then let's take a look at the 4 hour time frame and let's see if we could possibly get a trade. Right. So but mind you, because of the candlestick pattern we have on the weekly time frame, even though we are still very bullish, be very careful and make sure you look for proper confirmation before you take any trade. So this right here is actually a good zone for buy, right? So for buy continuation on Euro USD. So for me personally, I'm still expecting buys to continue, but though because we have candlestick pattern on the weekly time frame, I'll be very careful with the buys. But regardless, we are still very bullish. But then in a scenario whereby, let's say, since FOMC is today and then FOMC causes a break here. Although personally I'm not expecting that break. I'm not expecting FOMC to be for them to be hawkish, right, on the interest rate increment. But then anything can happen, right? Anything can still happen. That's just it. So, but then I'm actually more expecting of bullish. However, if we get a break below this zone, if this POI is violated, then we're most likely going to see some good sell to the downside. Let's say to this zone, right? As you can see right here, to this very zone, and then this zone we may not get to this zone actually, but then this zone, if we get a break from this zone, then most likely we'll come to this zone and then before a buy continuation, right? But then we have to pay attention to the fundamentals, what the fundamental is saying, in order for we to know the long term, right, bias for this Euro USD, right? But then currently, I'm actually very bullish on Euro USD. I'll still actually took a buy, although it failed around this point. But then I'm still very bullish on it, guys. I'm still very bullish. I'm still very bullish to the upside, right? However, I've told you if during FOMC price breaks at this point, that means we have to. It depends on if FOMC, if it comes out positive, then most likely it's going to break. And then if it comes out positive, it's going to break this point. And if it breaks this point, we are going to have a good set to the downside, let's say to these levels, and then before buy continuations, right? So I'll mark this out at my pure point of interest. So we start looking for trades to the upside from this very point. So you can go to the lower time frame, start looking for setups, right? And then we start looking for buys to the upside. So that's pretty much it, guys, for Euro USD. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like, share, and comment. God bless you.